Rolf's
life.
Messengers is pretty ambitious, I would say.
It's aggressive, but I actually don't hate it because of the fact that he has 2 removal spells in his hand, and he has a Thragtusk. With
we're semi-racing.
Being at 20 life, I think he's okay.
So we're going to trigger both battalions and attack for a whole bunch. Bringing in Frontline Medic, which is now a 4/4, Boros Elite, which is now a 4/4, and a 3/2 Lightning Mauler.
Yeah, and at this point, I think you want to just take it. I don't think you want to block and lose your Thragtusk. It would literally trade with any of those creatures because of the Mayor Avabrex. So
yeah,
I think Robbie just wants to take it here. Not amazing. You're taking 11 damage, dropping to 9, but you do have those 2 removal spells in play. So he can attack now with both those creatures, and Ben would have to at least block one of them.
Well, he can take out both creatures and put Ben to 8?
Well, no, because the thing is, he has I think he wants to attack.
2, I mean?
Sorry? He wants to attack first.
Yeah.
If Ben doesn't block, he can just kill him by abrupt decaying his own Giraffe Messenger and then killing Ben outright.
I see.
So I think he wants to force Ben to make the correct decision here.
He's also got a Disciple of Bolas in hand, does Robbie Cordell, being able to gain some more life.
So Ben makes the correct read, blocks the Giraffe Messenger, and drops to 5 life here.
Yeah, and this Boros Elite will, at the moment, be trading with half of Giralf's Messenger because of the Mayor of Avabreck.
And Ben would end up going to 3 right now.
Yep.
Robbie could have tried to kill the Mayor of Avabreck to not even lose the Giraffe Messenger, but looks like if he does have a Disciple of Bolas, he's going to gain that life.
Yeah, and the Tragic Slip can take down any creature he so chooses if he wants.
It doesn't look like he has a Mayor Disciple.
It does not
so
have
he
a
just
Disciple?
has the Tragic Slip.
I thought he had the Disciple. I apologize. So those are the 2 elimination spells in Robbie's graveyard. They're a little bit glary here, but we just played Abrupt Decay and Tragic Slip.
And Ben signifies that those 2 are still soul bonded, so he can't play another creature in his hand and soul bond that. He can attack Robbie for 3, and we know he has a Searing Spear in his hand, so he can drop him
to 3
in total, but not quite enough.
Not quite enough. Just taking in 2, putting him to 7, hoping for something like a Gorkland Rampager off the top to end this game on the next turn.
The Champion of Perish comes down as a potential chump blocker here. We know...
Now, Ben had a very, very bad first 2 turns for this matchup, and he's still got Robbie very close to where he wants him.
Well, it was that one turn where he basically unleashed 2 creatures. Shows you how powerful Battalion is, particularly with the Frontline Medic.
Absolutely.
And the Giant Growth took out the Desecration Demon. So, again, it looked bad for Robbie, but I think Robbie was in pretty firm control this whole match.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Ben doesn't really have a good option here. I think he has to kind of just attack with both, block with both. Maybe he's thinking I can maybe Searing Spear.
No, I think he has to block with both and then hope for Gorkland Rampager off the top, I guess, is his out. Searing Spear at end of turn.
Yeah, because the Lightning Mauler will be unsoul bonded.
Right.
So if you Searing Spear end of turn, drop Robbie to 4.
Yeah.
Any creature. Oh.
Well,
Robbie has another Thragtusk. I wish they would just tell us they have these cards rather than force us to do math.
It'd be so much easier if they did our job for us.
Yeah, so it looks like...
Didn't matter, it was another Searing Spear off the top.
Oh, wow. So if Robbie definitely needed that second Thragtusk there.
Definitely mattered, yep.
So Ben's deck, despite a really slow start, just goes to show you how powerful Lightning Mauler can be, particularly with Battalion. And he unleashed... potentially for 8 points of damage in 1 turn out of nowhere, and had a Giant Growth even to kill a Desecration Demon and keeping his guy alive.
Yeah, using a 1-mana spell to take down a Desecration Demon, almost always good.
Almost always good. So I think, Ben on the draw, it's obviously a much harder matchup for Ben when he's on the draw than when he's in the play. In Game 2, I think it gets a little bit better for him because he has cards like Passivism to sort of deal with Thragtusk and Desecration Demon.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to waste one of his, pump spells just to kind of clear away a blocker.
Yeah, Pacifism's very good against any Thragtusk deck that doesn't have Restoration Angel. It's a very good option. The rest of his sideboard, I just don't see anything coming in. I don't see a reason to bring in Boros Charm, for example.
Yeah, I think I think Boros Charm's reasonable in certain control matchups where you think they're going to have Supreme Verdict.
Right. Also a reason to bring in Viashino First Blade as another haste creature after post-Supreme Verdict.
Definitely. But against a deck like Robbie's, Cordell's deck, I'm not sure how familiar Ben is with it, maybe, but you know, they've obviously have X and 1, maybe they've been sitting next to each other throughout the course of the day. Ben maybe picked up on a few things. He's aware that maybe Robbie is playing Mutilate.
Yeah.
So a card like Boros Charm, not very good against Mutilate.
Yeah, the 4-mana Wrath of God in Robbie's deck, a lot better against Boros Charm than the 4-mana Wrath of God that it's designed for, Supreme Verdict. Over on Robbie's side of things, his main deck is pretty well set up against aggro decks. He's got the 3 main deck Abrupt Decays, 3 main deck Tragic Slips and Mutilates and Liliana of the Veils. He's very well set up to be able to take down the early assault kind of stuff. The sideboard is mostly geared for Reanimator and Control, although he does have a couple of options. He has Golgari Charm, which we were discussing before we went on air, is a reasonable option to be able to just nausea the board.
Yeah, it's the same reason people have Electrickery against Niable. It's just being able to go -1/-1 to the board. You can deal with cards like May or Vavrabreck, Boros Elite, potentially just get really explosive, really devastating 2-for-1s when your opponent goes turn 1 champion, and then turn 2 experiment 1. You put the trigger on the stack and cast Golgari Charm. So definitely probably going to see that card come in. I also like bringing in the 4th Mutilate.
Sure.
But beyond that, like you said, his deck is pretty much geared towards beating creature decks game 1.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that many cards in his sideboard devoted to beatdown. And you board in those 3.
The other problem is that he wants to take out Cremates, the 2 Cremates that he has in the main deck, and he probably wants to take out almost all, if not all, of his Sign-in Bloods.
Yeah, I don't love Sign-in Blood in this matchup, obviously, because you don't want to be doing damage to yourself. But I don't think it's the worst card. I could see cutting maybe one of the Sign-in Bloods for 1 Mutilate, but I don't think having 3 Sign-in Bloods is going to be too devastating. You have 4 Thragtusk and 2 Disciple Bullets as sort of life gain, and he obviously has so many removal spells that being able to draw cards to sort of get into those threats is still pretty good. Maybe you don't want to draw 2 Sign-in Bloods, but I think having 3 is fine.
And based on what Ben saw in Game 1, do you think that he wants the additional Thalia, or do you think that he would side them out because he got beaten by Thragtusk and Desecration Demon and Drolf's Messenger? Perhaps he doesn't, but he did also see Abrupt Decay and Tragic Slip.
Yeah, I think it's tough to bring in Thalia if you think your opponent's going to have cards like Golgari Charm and he knows about Tragic Slip. I think the Giant Growths are probably worse than the 2 Pacifisms, so I'd probably swap those. As far as bringing in a 3rd Thalia, I'm just not sure he wants to cut any of those other creatures.
But he would leave the 2 in.
I don't think he has anything better in his sideboard. Maybe you want to bring in the Viashino First Blade as a way to follow up a Mutilate with that card, or even to just get those aggressive starts, where especially if you're on the play where you go turn 1 creature, turn 2 creature, turn 3 Viashino First Blade. That's a lot of damage early on. So I could see maybe bringing those cards in instead of Thalia, because I don't think Thalia is that great in this matchup.
I think that especially if Ben sees a Mutilate in this game, those First Blades are coming right in.
Yeah, I think it's maybe if Ben thinks, okay, well, the Thalia can keep him off a Mutilate for 1 turn, maybe it's worth coming in.
Right.
But
or the Golgari Charm for 1 turn, because it does make it cost 3, and he's on the play here.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's reasonable, but I do like the First Blades, especially if you're going to have him in your sideboard. This is certainly a reasonable matchup to have him in against.
Sure.
Because you really just want to try to get as much. You want to end the game by turn 4. You can't let it get to 5 and 6. Because once it gets to that point, there's just so many things out of Robbie's deck that you're afraid of. So I think you have to try to play it a little more aggressive.
Yeah. An interesting note about Viashino First Blade is when you translate cards from English into other languages, sometimes Wizards has problems. Mm-hmm. We've seen this on a couple cards in the past, and sometimes things get lost in translation, or they just mismanage what the cards actually do. Viashino First Blade turns out in the Portuguese printing, I think it's Portuguese. If you're on Twitter, you can correct me. It's either Spanish or Portuguese. Target creature gets +2/+2, not itself.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a way better card in Portuguese. Of course, the English version is the version that is used for all sanctioned Magic. So
no wonder there's so many Portuguese players doing well at the Pro Tour this week.
There you go. So Ben Wienburg's turn 1 champion of the parish is met with a Tragic Slip. Mayor of Vavrabreck is the follow-up play.
No, I think that's a Flint of Four.
Or that is a Flint of Four, I'm sorry.
So Flint of Four comes down for Ben's side. Does Robbie have an answer, or it looks like he has that Sign in Blood that we were talking about?
Yeah,
he also
it looks
has an Abrupt
like he's
Decay.
got 2 Sign in Bloods. That's a little rough.
Wow. So...
Not the... Oh, he's got a... the other black was Victim of Night.
So he has a Victim of Night for the Flint of Four. What are we going to see here? We know he has a Frontline Medic and a Lightning Mauler and a Rootbound Crag in his hand. So we're going to see just a 3 here. Wow, Robbie has a Mutilate too. So a really good hand for Robbie right here.
I think that his concern is mana. I don't see...
I think he might
have
a...
2?
I think he might have a Golgari Guildgate, which he chose not to play because he wanted access to Victim of Night.
Sure.
So I think he's in okay shape. He also has a Sign in Blood to draw into lands.
Right.
Looks like he drew another Mutilate, so there's the Guildgate.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mutilate with that Guildgate, not going to be able to take down this Frontline Medic as of yet. One of these 2 cards is going to have to be a Swamp.
Yeah, I think he might have a 3rd Swamp in his hand. Yeah, it looks like he does have a 3rd Swamp. So
yeah, basic Swamp is the perfect card to draw there because he didn't want to pay 2 life off of the Overgrown Tomb.
And Ben's turn is going to be pretty explosive. He's going to have Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Mauler, so he's going to be able to attack for 7, dropping Robbie to 11. But we know Robbie has that Mutilate.
Yep. Robbie's going to mutilate everything.
Wow, Robbie drew a Liliana too, so he's able to have another removal spell in case Ben has a follow-up creature. But
Ben does have a follow-up creature.
Rampager?
No, it's a First Blade.
There's the First Blade.
So that'll put Robbie to 7, but Robbie will be able to follow up.
Wow, another Sign in Blood. He's drawing all those Sign in Bloods today.
Yeah, he is.
So
we got Liliana here.
Liliana takes care of the First Blade and doesn't bother casting Sign in Blood. Obviously very concerned about his life right now.
Yep.
He does have an Abrupt Decay as well. So Ben has no cards in his hand. We have a Golgari Charm.
Yeah. Robbie drew all of the cards that he needed this game, except for Thragtusk. Maybe could have used a Thragtusk.
Thragtusk, obviously good, but this is one of those situations we were talking about where Sign in Blood, you use all those removal spells and you want to dig for one of those creatures because you want to close the game out. You know, you don't want to give Ben time.
This deck is extremely good against Naya Blitz. This is just a clinic, basically, on why. Although Ben did draw 5 lands in both games.
Yeah, a lot of lands, and you know, Naya Blitz doesn't play many lands. It plays 20 lands, so a little out of his range.
A little unlucky, but...
Robbie does have a Disciple of the Bolus to gain some of that life back. And there's another land for Ben, so Robbie can just uptick that Liliana a little bit more, give himself a little room. Wow, he drew a Jaral's Messenger, so Desecration Demon. Desecration Demon comes down. That's a card that can close out the game quickly. Yeah, and Robbie has a Golgari Charm and an Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, he's just going to leave this Liliana on 2 just in case. He doesn't want to discard any of his cards with Ben being Hellbent. This one's all over but the Shouting, really.
So Ben has 1 card in his hand. He's going to force him to discard it with Liliana. It's just a land. Discards an irrelevant spell.
Discards a Mutilate, which is an irrelevant spell at this point in the game.
Here comes a
Disciple to gain 6 and draw 6.
So pretty much a solid spell right here. If he draws another land, he can play the Jaral's Messenger that's in his hand. I don't believe he played a land this turn yet. So yep, here comes Jaral's Messenger. And
there's Disciple of Bolas. From an M13, hasn't seen a ton of play.
Burning Tree Emissary comes to play.
Not so good when it's just Grizzly Bears instead of Frogmite.
Abrupt Decay used on a Burning Tree Emissary. And here we go. Didn't even bother using a Liliana to kill it. Just doesn't care.
And now we're on the aggro. Ben sees it. And with, I don't know, 27 minutes left on the clock for everybody else, that's a quick 2-0 for Robbie Cordell.
And, you know, when we first saw Robbie's deck, we said, well, why would you play this deck over Jund, you know? And Adrian brought up, well, maybe it's just really, really